Hey everyone, we got Roca yesterday and today it's time to review the first, I would say time mage, because that's what she actually is. I don't know if she's a time mage in the story because I skip all stories, but yeah, let's check her out. So Roca is another super limit burst unit. She is a supporter and she will forever be one. She does not have a brave shift. Instead, depending on her EX level, she unlocks her super limit burst at turn 5, 4 or 3. Turn 3 being when she's at EX plus 3 and turn 4 being when she's EX plus 1, thus replacing the brave shift. Alright, so these are her abilities. The Stone Slayer, which is her potent stone killer, unlocks only at EX plus 3, which is still a shame, but it just follows with Nicole and Sakura. Now, the rest of the kit should look very familiar to you. She has the 100% stone and plant killer on her kit. She's got that basic earth amp on her kit with earth imbue and earth resistance, which Nicole had for water and Sakura had for lightning, so nothing really too special here. The real kicker is her quick ability though, which decreases the cooldown or cooldown ability timers by 1% by 1 turn for one ally, which I find is the greatest upside of Roca and which makes her somewhat special compared to Nicole and Sakura, because this can be super gimmicky but also super handy for trials, less so most likely for ranking events such as Clash or Dark Visions. But for trials, this could make or break a few cool strats. I mean, Graf from Xenogears, he has that one ability that unlocks at turn 4. And with Roca, you can actually have this ready on turn 2, by the way. So that'd be super cool. And I mean, it's a cool gimmick to have, right? Other than that, Haste is an LB gauge spell which also increases physical accuracy, which is cool. But the rest of the kit, I mean, this looks most likely very familiar to you, nothing too exciting, honestly. Alright, her limit burst is a very basic 300 stat buff for all allies, 250 LB buff for all allies, and 35 earth magic and physical amp, which is decent in itself. But since she is a super limit burst unit, we also have the fast forward super limit burst. Decreases cooldown ability timers by 2 turns for one ally, which is super cool, right? I mean, her super limit burst unfortunately unlocks, like I said, at turn 5, 4 or 3, depending on your EX level. But if you need a second round of burst and burst quickly, this is super cool. It is also a 300% stat buff, which is power crept already especially by the other two. Sakura and Nicole have 350 both, and Aerith has 400%. But the best thing, honestly, in my opinion, next to the cooldown timer reduction, is the 300% LB damage increase for the entire party. With this, you can technically skip Zidane's STMR. Although Global's STMR from Zidane is better than the JP one, because we can equip it to literally anyone and have the unit sing. But this, if you were to use, say, Roca's SLB on turn 3 because she's at EX plus 3, you have your units ready to go, especially the limit burst units. And you also get that super strong 45% Earth Amp, which is good. I mean, 45 Water Amp, 45 Lightning Amp were just as good as was the Ice Amp from Celeste. So yeah, it is good. I mean, this is a decent super limit burst. I would have liked 400 stats, but I guess this is exclusive to premium units. Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. The Trustmaster, I gotta say, even if it's for the weird stat of the killers, it is 40% Fairy Stone Killer. I don't know why Fairy though. Maybe it was just my mistake. But I think it reads Fairy Killer, and I'm rather confused if I'm being honest. Let me just check in the game because I got the game open right now. But I really believe it says Fairy Killer, and this is not a mistake on my end. And it's Fairy Stone Killer. Yeah. So, I mean, okay. It is also 50% magic, which is okay. This is a solid TMR, but the killer percent, I mean, it's crap and it's super off-putting because we usually get multiples of 50 or 70, or we get 50 or 75, sometimes 100%. So 40% is really bad. But other than that, the Super Trust Master, I guess Alum actually listened at some point to the player base and stopped making these clothes spirit based. Now we do have 42 defense and 64 magic. It also has 50% fairy and stone killer physical and magical, which is cool. Earth resistance and stop resistance, which is cool. But honestly, this is the best STMR out of all these buffer units, out of the 3, meaning Sakura, Nicole, and Roca. So yeah, it's a superb STMR in general for magic users, just because of the killers, and especially Fairy and Stone, they are rather rare even for magic type DPS. Alright, let's check out the vision card, which is the greatest blunder, obviously. If you're looking at it, it's 50 base all stats, which is already super bad. And then we get a total of 18% MP recovery. I mean, this would have been cool for maybe Pyros, but because this is not at the beginning of the turn, I believe, but rather at the end of the turn, it's I don't know. I think it's bad. But yeah, it's a trash tick card. Full stop. I'll just say it outright, it's a trash tick card. I don't want it. I'm not gonna use it ever, probably, most likely. 100%. Anyway, moving on. I mean, this is a super short review anyway, because there isn't much to talk about Roca. Now, I put this slide into this because I do want to talk about Roca's niche. And she is, like I mentioned earlier, she's a super cool partner for Graph from Xenogears, if we are ever getting Xenogears, that is. Because Xenogears on the JP server was tied to a Vision World event. Vision World, if you don't know what this is, it is similar, very similar. It is pretty much an equivalent of Dark Visions, but specifically made for the series that it's tied to. So Vision World for Xenogears had a lot of Xenogears fights. They also did one for Legend of Mana and Trials of Mana. So that was cool too. And yeah, we never got these. And it's hard to say whether we're gonna ever get the Xenogears Vision World or if they just gonna skip it. But I'm really hoping that we get Xenogears because Graph is a super strong unit and Graph really wants to be paired with Roca because his turn 4 cooldown ability can be used on turn 2 with Roca, and that is such a huge damage boost for Graph. It's not even fun because he can DPS so much harder. But again, in ranking events, Clash and Dark Visions, you only need to burst once, usually. Kairos was the exception. We'll see if that continues or if we are returning to one-shot trick ponies. But if we need multiple burst turns, Roca is going to be super good. And if not, well, Roca's only niche is going to be in Trials, where you want to have cooldowns. But you wanted to have cooldowns sooner, because trials such as Behemoth trial or Ashura trial, those were really hard when they came out. They wanted you to have cooldowns rolling all the time, basically. So yeah, again, any unit that wants to nuke as often as possible with big cooldowns, they're gonna love Roca as their haste potential. The Earth equivalent, she's a super good Earth equivalent to Nicole and Sakura, and if you ever need Earth element in Dark Visions or maybe say Clash of Wills, she's going to be very good for this. 45 amp is super good. And something that I thought of earlier today is what does she do for tanks? Like FaZe has Narrate's Kiss, which is a 4-turn cooldown, which lasts 2 turns, but you can make this an effective 2-turn cooldown, meaning For a certain amount of time, FaZe is going to have 100% uptime on her 80% magical mitigation. And I would say by the time that FaZe does not have Nereid's Kiss ready, the fight is most likely to be over by then. I mean, most fights these days, they are easy anyway, and you're not gonna run into troubles. But if there were to be a fight that is actually challenging again, this is actually a gimmick that people should keep in mind of, because it's easy to overlook, but when you actually use it, it's super strong, I believe. And yeah, the last thing I do like to mention is the 300% LB damage buff on her super limit burst is a huge deal too, because you don't need that 5 turns of singing, having one unit be literally AFK for all that time. And on paper, technically, she will make Zidane's STMR obsolete, but in reality, people are still going to use Zidane's STMR because Roca does literally nothing else. Her damage is totally non-existent, and you're probably better off using Zidane's STMR on a DPS unit that can then ride off burst at full potential, for example. So yeah, it's a tough spot Roca is in, but if the stars align well enough, she will shine rather quickly with Graf, especially. Graf really wants to have Roca on his team. And Powers, which we might get next week, also profits from Roca, and I will explain that next week when she releases, or the week thereafter, who knows when Powers is coming. But I'll talk about Roca again when we talk about Powers, because they pair well together as well. Alright, so how does she fare in the meta? I mean, I've covered it all pretty much, so yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say, right? She has good place in the meta for Earth teams. 300% LB boost is a big deal. Usability in Clash, I don't think she's super useful, but I might be wrong. It really depends on the next boss. And again, cooldown reduction is a very neat trick to have and at the moment it's just here to make easy fights even easier, but it might come in handy for future Dark Visions and Clash. Who knows? It's hard to say at this point in time. And yeah, I mean, I am still mad at the AX plus 3 unlocks for killers, the 160 ones. In Clash, we do have better things. Elena and Bulwark, for example, they are only tied to morale and not EX levels. And Ling and Bulwark also do better AoE buffs to most races already. So the killers, they are not what makes Roca shine at all, in my opinion. So yeah, that begs the question, should you pull? I mean, she's not relevant outside of Earth stages in Clash on Dark Visions yet. She might be. If you're lacking Zidane's STMR, this might be worth going for, but keep in mind she is technically at that slot outside. And if you use her Super Limit Burst for the 300% LB buff, you are locked to Earth. Keep that in mind, because it also imbues. And yeah. I mean, she's a nice off-banner to get and unit to pull with tickets. I did yesterday, so I'm still happy about it. And I'm still thinking of ways to showcase her, and I haven't found any. So if you're listening to this, give me any suggestions. I'll gladly take your suggestions on this and on how to use her, or where to use her, who to pair her with, because I don't know. I mean, I asked Sinsar and he said Graf, and I was like, yeah, about that. So, let's see. But anyway, thank you all for watching. Again, one of the shorter reviews, but I think it's fine. And we'll see what we'll get next week. I'm still excited for Roca, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of the morning, evening, afternoon, wherever from. And we'll see each other tomorrow for more Dark Visions. Bye bye.